Atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting.
Bold, provocative, completely unfalsifiable. Classic Peterson. Now, the first person to challenge this claim isn't some edgy Reddit atheist who just discovered Richard Dawkins. This is Luke, someone who was training to become a traditional Catholic priest. Let me emphasize this. A traditional Catholic priest, not some liberal seminary student who thinks that the resurrection is a metaphor. Here's how he put it.
My background is in studying to become a traditional Catholic priest, daily mass, daily rosary, going on long retreats, deep into the magisterium and biblical hermeneutics. Like, I was thoroughly in it.
So this man didn't just dip his toes into Christianity, he did a theological cannonball into the deep end. Daily mass, daily rosary, deep dives into the magisterium, years studying biblical hermeneutics. If there's a checklist for understanding Christianity, this guy ticked every box with the dedication of someone preparing for a lifetime of service. So how does our supposedly brilliant psychologist respond to someone who clearly, demonstrably, understands what they rejected? Does he ask probing questions? Does he explore what specific theological or philosophical issues led this devoted seminarian away from faith? Maybe it was the problem of an infinite punishment for finite sins. Perhaps the Bible's explicit endorsement of slavery in Exodus and Leviticus. Could it have been the divinely commanded genocide in Canaan where God orders the slaughter of children and infants? These are serious theological problems that drive thoughtful believers away from faith. But no.
Is there something that I missed over years of study, both this issue formally and living out religion so deeply?
Well, you obviously feel that you missed something when you were practicing for the priesthood. Your aim was off then. So there's always the possibility that it's still off now.
Stop. Rewind. Play that again. Because the ex-seminarian didn't say he feels like he missed something. Luke is using Peterson's own logic against him. If Peterson's claim is true, then logically, this deeply educated man must have missed something. It's a rhetorical question exposing the absurdity of Peterson's position. But Peterson, with breathtaking condescension that even his most devoted fans would recognize as intellectual dishonesty in anyone else, immediately deploys his favorite fallacy, the no true Scotsman. The message is crystal clear. You didn't find God because you weren't really looking. If you were really looking, and I mean really, really looking, you would have found him. It's the theological equivalent of she goes to another school, you wouldn't know her.
What was off about my aim in the first place?
I don't know. That might take a long time to figure out.
Translation, I have absolutely no idea what you did wrong, but my entire worldview depends on you having done something wrong, so therefore you must have done something wrong. This is where Peterson's supposed intellectual rigor crumbles faster than a communion wafer in holy water. Like, seriously, and this is a comment that refers to, his whole presence on Jubilee. What side of the bed did he get up on? He's so deeply unhappy. He needs atheism in his life, I'm telling you. But our ex-seminarian came prepared for this exact nonsense.
Then it seems kind of like this no true Scotsman type of fallacy in which you're the arbiter of people's aims and how they understand those aims to be.
Wonderful. He identifies the fallacy, names it, and explains it perfectly in one sentence. And you know what? Let's pause here because I want everyone, and if I may, especially the Christians watching, to truly feel why this rhetorical move is so disappointing to atheists. We hear this constantly, this dismissive, you just didn't do it right response. So let me demonstrate the absurdity by applying Peterson's exact logic to a different religion, and watch how quickly it falls apart. Suppose a Muslim scholar said to you, Christians reject Islam, but they don't understand what they're rejecting. And before you can even explain that you've studied the Quran, you've compared it to the Bible, you've prayed about it and found Christianity more compelling, before hearing any of your reasons, this scholar immediately diagnoses that your aim was off in approaching Islam. That if you really understood the Quran, and I mean really, really understood it, you'd be praying towards Mecca 5 times a day. You'd laugh them out of the room, and so should you. You'd recognize it as immediately circular reasoning that's so blatant it's practically spherical. You don't believe because you studied it wrong, and I know that you studied it wrong because you don't believe. Just to be clear about the circular reasoning here, it's when your conclusion is hidden in one of your premises. So Peterson's argument is essentially people who seek God properly find God, and we know that they sought properly because they found God. The conclusion, they sought God properly, is proven by the outcome. finding God, which is then used to prove the conclusion. It's a logical snake eating its own tail. This isn't sophisticated theology. It's not deep psychology. It's the argumentative equivalent of a child putting their fingers in their ears and yelling, "La la la, I can't hear you." Luke then delivers the killing blow.
How is it that you can claim that people don't know something that you know about their life despite not having met them?
What a brilliant surgical question, one that exposes the entire charade. Peterson has known this man for approximately 45 seconds, and he's already diagnosed a failure in his years-long spiritual journey, not based on evidence, not based on careful questioning, based purely on the fact that this journey didn't end where Peterson's ideology demands it must end. Watch Jordan scramble.
Well, it's obviously a generic claim, just like the atheists claim that there's no God is a generic claim. In your case, it would have to be specified more, and I'm not claiming to understand what was going on in your mind.
Bro, the intellectual whiplash here could snap your neck. He's just spent a minute telling this man that his aim was off and that he didn't understand what he rejected. But now suddenly he's not claiming to understand what was going on in this guy's mind. And then comes the false equivalence. As a reminder, a false equivalence is when someone treats two fundamentally different things as if they're comparable or carry equal weight. It's like a therapist saying, well, you claim to feel sad, and I claim that you have unresolved childhood trauma. These are both just claims about mental states, so they're equally valid. No, they're not. One person is reporting their own experience. The other is making a diagnosis about someone else's mind. The authority and evidence required for each is completely different. Watch Peterson try this trick. When an atheist says, "I don't believe God exists," they're making a claim about their own mental state, their own evaluation of evidence. It's a first-person report. Here's what I believe based on what I've seen. But when Peterson says, "You don't understand what you're rejecting," he's making a claim about the other person's comprehension, their intelligence, their sincerity, their entire intellectual journey. It's a third-person diagnosis. Here's what's wrong with your thinking. If you were thinking correctly, you couldn't possibly reject my view. These aren't remotely equivalent. One is a statement about personal belief. The other is a condescending diagnosis of someone else's supposed intellectual failures. But Peterson tries to pass them off as the same type of generic claim to deflect the arrogance of his position.